How did somebody you know ruin their life in one day? My dad used a dirty needle while doing drugs and got HIV. In 2008 he told us he was living with AIDS because of that one day. We have helped pay for the meds or his bills, because he paid for his meds and didn't have the money, ever since. Last summer he got COVID, and when the doc was talking to my sister on the phone she asked what special treatment he would need to have due to having AIDS. His doctor of 20 years said, "What? He doesn't have AIDS, we haven't talked to him since." Edit for clarification. At the time, he said he had been living with HIV for years and that it developed into AIDS for not treating it. I was 16 and dumb. No, I didn't sit down and interrogate my father for hours to make sure he wasn't lying. How dare I not know, right? He gave permission to the doctor to speak to my sister about his medical treatment. No laws broken. The doctor clarified. It wasn't a 2-minute conversation. He had been seeing my dad as a patient for 20 years and knew his medical history. He was as upset as we were that he lied. After finding out, me and my sister confronted him and he admitted to it all. He never had HIV or AIDS. It was all a lie. Tried to kill themselves by jumping off a bridge, survived. Paralyzed from neck down. Edit, it was a female. My daughter's middle school teacher exchanged nudes with a 14-year-old on Discord across state lines. More like a day horribly altered my life. I was a teacher and coach. For a field trip the principal could not afford 2 buses. So I had to walk about 10 girls to the field trip location, and back to school, while the one bus was filled with the rest of the junior high students and faculty. About a mile each way. I chose the girls of my team because they would listen to me outdoors, unlike lots of middle school kids. While crossing the street in the crosswalk, with the walk signal in our favor. All the kids went first, and like girls they're clumped together and chatting while walking. I noticed a woman made a left turn into our crosswalk and never saw us as she tried to accelerate to beat an oncoming car. I knew she was going to run right through the girls. I pushed the kids forward, very forcefully. Most of the girls fell onto the pavement in front of other vehicles waiting at their red light. They were badly scraped up, like road rash from me pushing them. But no hospitals or doctors were needed for their scrapes. I don't remember the impact. I remember seeing a Pontiac symbol between the headlights. I came to, and I was in a whole different lane, and facing where I had just come from. I could not get up. They say my body went up the car, and off the driver's side, tearing the side mirror off the car and breaking her windshield. Horror and sobbing from my student athletes. The girls raised me onto a backboard when the ambulance came, which must have been traumatic. Now, 20 years later, I am still an ambulatory wheelchair user. Can't teach or coach. Can't work at a desk. I have chronic pain. Yes, my life can be really sucky, but I would not change what I did that day. When I get low emotionally from all my limitations, I remember those girls. I watch them go to college, get married, grow into mothers, and hold impressive jobs in their fields. And when they show a photo on FB of their happy moment, it recharges me to know they are safe, healthy, and happy. And it reaffirms my decision to save them from harm. He got drunk, got in his car, drove 90 miles per hour, missed a red light and killed my niece and 3 other people. He's been in prison since 2009 and still has 6 years to go, as he pled out to 4 counts of manslaughter. Had a dental school classmate who used to be a police officer speed down the highway in his cop car at 110 mph because he was scared to miss his online history exam and killed a car full of people. Was only in prison for 2 years and got into dental school and got his dental license and practices dentistry and has his own office. Like how? So awful. I distantly know somebody who tried to cross the US-Can border without declaring greater than $10,000 in cash, which led to them searching all his stuff and finding no porn on his computer. He's in jail. Was he a dance instructor by chance? Because this same thing happened to someone I knew. Yep. That's him. Maybe you two know each other. Maybe this is just a common thing among dance instructors. Guy the first new in uni was inebriated and decided to try and clear a very tall spiked wrought iron fence. He impaled his balls and did not get to keep them. For whom the balls toll? A friend of my parents was a good family man who loved his family. One day he was playing with his toddler and was playfully tossing her on the bed. She would get back up giggling and he would toss her again. In one of the tosses he threw her a bit too far and she hit a bedpost. She lived but became bed-bound, unable to even talk. Not quite vegetable but close. He went to jail on child abuse. Lost his wife, his job and his little girl would never be the same. The guilt was so much he ended it as soon as he could. I think this is one of the most depressing stories on here. It was an accident. A 19-year-old guy in Sydney ate a slug for a dare. Got rat lungworm disease. Went into a coma for 18 months. Woke up a vegetable confined to wheelchair needing 24-hour care. Died about 10 years later. From eating a single slug. A buddy from high school blew through a stop sign and hit a couple of motorcyclists, killing them both. He didn't stop to render aid and fled the scene. He was busted for vehicular manslaughter, and spent 12+ years in prison. He's lucky he can work for his dad, because where he lives now is not kind to felons trying to rehabilitate. Dude, several years our junior, on the fringe of the friend group, was spiraling into depression. Decided to end it with a shotgun. Didn't get the angle right. Blew his jaw and face off. Literally. It's not for nothing that I've said ever since, there are worse things than dying. Wow. So many activity. Please, if you're considering self-harm, seek help. There are those who care and will listen, whether you currently think so or not. If nothing else, come to Reddit. Tell us what's eating you, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by how much positive feedback you receive. Similar thing with a high school acquaintance of mine. He shot himself in the face with a revolver. And lived. Not long after he was convicted of a drug charge. In the courtroom, he told the judge that he would not be going to prison. The judge disagreed, and gave him a prison sentence. He then pulled out a shiv and sliced his own throat in front of the courtroom. He died from the injury. Guys got drunk in HS. Drove off the highway. Didn't make the turn at 90 mph, 5 dead. A week ago, my little sister slipped on the ice getting out of her car and hit her head. She didn't think much of it when she had a pounding headache later, figuring she just whacked herself good. Her friend told her to just sit down and take it easy until she started slurring her words roughly 10 hours after the fall. They called an ambulance for her, but she was going into cardiac arrest. Turns out she'd stopped taking her blood thinners she was supposed to be on for clotting issues. The headache wasn't the fall. It was the clot in her leg cutting off blood to the brain. At the age of 26, she never recovered and leaves behind a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. In college, my ex's friend was pulled over for speeding. He had drugs and alcohol in his system, and when the cop reached in his truck to grab the keys, he panicked and took off, thinking the cop would let go. The cop did not let go, and was dragged for quite a ways before eventually falling to the ground and hitting his head, resulting in his death. My ex's friend was charged with capital murder and sentenced to 20 years in a Mississippi state prison. 21 years old and ruined his entire life in one night. 3 guys in high school decided to speed on the backroads after practice. Lost control, driver was decapitated. Passenger who was being scouted had severe brain damage and unable to walk, eat etc. on his own, and the third may have walked away, but for the rest of his life will have to live with the trauma. Great bunch of guys, just heartbreaking. Friend of mine from a wealthy Middle Eastern country, family didn't quite ruin his life but fucked it up for a while. Was in Canada on a student visa but was working after graduating and had applied for permanent residency. Got rejected, so he took out every credit card he could find and ran them all up because he was leaving the country forever that week. Tells his parents he is coming home and why mom makes a few phone calls and turns out the kid had screwed up some paperwork, and it was no problem to get it fixed up and approved. That was 15 years ago and he still lives here, but his credit card debt was more than his annual salary and his parents, correctly, told him he was an idiot and to pay it himself. He also lost out on a job opportunity the next year because his credit was such a disaster. My friend's wife was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor said she had about a 10% chance of surviving. She scheduled her surgery for a month out, and without telling him, took out several credit cards in just her name. She ranked up $100,000 in debt in that month, flying around the world, and doing everything on her bucket list. She had the surgery and chemo after and lived. She was fine. That debt completely fucked up their lives for about 10 years. Edit. I guess I should a couple of things. 1. The husband, my friend, knew she was traveling. He saw the roughly $10,000 added to their joint credit card. He did not know she had taken out credit and was hiding an additional $90,000 in debt. 2. His wife honestly thought she would die. And then the credit cards would close the accounts and the family would owe nothing. Which is not exactly how it works. So luckily that did not happen. 3. Yes, it fucked up a lot of things. He lost his DoD security clearance because of it. People with a lot of debt can be bought. And he took a less paying job as a federal contractor, where I met him. But he honestly does not regret it, and is happy to have his wife and kids all alive. Imagine the husband's elation at her survival and then discovering the total breach of trust and financial recklessness. I mean, what did he think she was doing in that month? He must have known she was traveling extensively. How did he think she was paying for it? As the dude who has had a significant other deal with and survive a potentially super nasty cancer scare, I didn't and don't give a flying fuck about the dumb money we spent distracting ourselves from the thought that our life that was just taking off was actually crash landing. It's just money, who fucking cares in the end. I know a lady that I used to work with that did the same thing. But she actually got away with it. She had just finished her degree and decided to go back to China. I think she took out at least 10 different credit cards and spent thousands of dollars on each. Kid down the street had his best friend over, and his friend, being a 12 to 13-year-old boy, was being a total dickhead. Kid picks up a shotgun his brother left lying around in the dining room and aimed at friend. Friend taunted him. Kid pulled the trigger and filled his friend's head full of buckshot. 2 families instantly devastated. Kid went to jail. I occasionally see the friend when I go out for a walk. He's a grown-up now, but is intellectually maybe 4 to 5 years old, and will be taken care of by family for the rest of his life. Found an article on it. Yes, the friend lived though with a lot of brain damage. Friend's son was with his recently engaged fiancée who had a serious nut allergy. They were driving not far from Bendigo. They stopped off at a cafe to buy sandwiches. The woman running the cafe assured them there were no nuts anywhere near the sandwiches, so they bought them then went on their way. Driving out away from town, she was nibbling on the sandwiches when she struggled to breathe. He stopped the car, got out, figured what was going on, went to the back of the car to get her EpiPen, which he struggled to find. But by the time he did find it, she was dead. A couple of weeks after the funeral, he got in his car, drove it back to the stretch of roadside where she died, put his foot down on the accelerator and deliberately aimed his car at a power pole. He'd left his mum a note. Addendum. For anyone wishing to blame someone for this, I need to make it clear that the contamination turned out to be an accidental tainting of a bread batch. The cafe owner did not know about it, nor did the bakery until this incident. Sad lesson to learn here. If you need an EpiPen for an allergy, the only place you should keep it, especially when traveling, is on your person. Get a fanny pack. Be dorky, stay alive. Yep. I have a student who has a fanny pack due to medical diagnoses and she was self-conscious about having to wear it. I bought myself a fanny pack and I wear it most days I am in their classroom. Now, there are several students who wear fanny packs. It makes me smile knowing she feels less self-conscious wearing her fanny pack. Edit. Wow. I posted a comment as I was headed to lunch, across the street to work with my elementary kiddos and didn't think much of it. Thank you for all of your kind words and the award. If you would like to give any other awards, then as a public school band director I'll encourage you to instead donate to your local school district's fine arts programs. If I could ask for one more thing, I would encourage everyone to support your local schools by voting in every election. State and local elections are more important than ever and we need more representatives that support our mission and truly support public education. Worked in Seattle Airport and a coworker decided to take his own life by stealing an airplane, fly it in loops around the Pacific Northwest airspace while being chased by the Air Force until finally going nose down. Childhood friend who relapsed from a drug addiction. He ingested fentanyl. Died all alone in a filthy basement. He had been looking healthier. We reconnected and he was planning his life going forward sober. That hurt a lot, that hope being taken away in a few minutes. Fuck opiates, fentanyl and those who deal it. Too many lives lost every day. Stood in the wrong place. He was stood in a bar minding his own business and a fight broke out. He caught an accidental blow to the back of the head and caught his head on a wall on the way down. He never woke up. Worked with a guy. He made his kids ice cream, drugged one bowl. Then put that kid to bed. Once the other kid went to sleep he shot and killed her. Then went to the other kid's room. The drugged one, shot and killed her. Then called up his wife, shot and killed himself on the phone with her. Fuck you, Mark. Fuck you. These guys should just start with themselves. He had just turned 19. Summer after senior year. Dad owns a very lucrative lumber sales and construction company. He got a brand new truck for graduation, and was going to start his job after summer ended with his dad. Trained to be a foreman, and basically be set for life on a path to retire extremely comfortably by the age of 55. He decided to take a bunch of pills and ran a red light. T-boned a car, killing the driver instantly and crippling the passenger for life. He got off with vehicular manslaughter because his dad forked out big money to get the charges lessened. He served 13 years and got out last year. He just walks around the town now because he can't get work, own a license or vehicle. He ate dinner alone, choked, and died. Work from home fear initiated. Middle management type man where I used to work. Came into the office every other day. He was known to be a stand-up guy, good family man, even a good boss, as good as it gets when it comes to management at least. He got caught having sex with the new hire. Lost his job, his marriage, and his kids stopped talking to him. That was 2 years ago. Last news I got, he's living in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor, and already spent half his savings on alcohol. 30-plus year district-renowned high school band director retires from teaching. High-end retirement party with a good amount of past students and colleagues celebrating his career. Daughter just had her first child. He's seemingly a happy grandfather with a happy marriage and happy life. 1 year later he gets caught talking to a 13-year-old girl who turned out to be law enforcement undercover. The next 20 years in federal prison. Edit. I had to go back to check the validity of the sentence after all the comments. He got 10 years. Damage is all the same, though. A local dude was sucking the toes of his 14-year-old stepdaughter while she slept. She was awake but too scared to say anything. Mom eventually found out and shit hit the fan. Edit. I posted the link to the court doc, but it looks like it got buried. Link. Had a friend from high school who decided to opt out by jumping off the roof at his mom's house. He landed in such a way that he survived, but is now paralyzed from the chest down, as in, can't even breathe for himself and fully reliant on home health aides and his mom, whom he despised and named as the reason he wanted out of life. It's fair that she was a full-blown heroin addict at this point and was a shit show herself. Some kid in our senior year of high school pulled the fire alarm every day. He was getting away with it for a while. The school had town officials and the chief of the fire department and police come in and talk about the dangers. The town would send trucks and be without them if there was another emergency. None of that worked. When they offered a reward, the kid's friends ratted him out. His family had to pay for all those calls. He was expelled from school and didn't graduate. Guy the first knew, married and with 2 kids. He'd been adopted as a baby and reconnected with his bio family, including his 10-year-old sister who he was excited to get to know. She came to visit him planning to spend a few weeks with his family. Her first day there, he tried to molest her. She got away from him, ran to the bathroom and called 911. He lost his job, most of his friends, and, we thought at the time, his wife. She took him back when he got out of prison, though. My dad once saw a patient who was a seemingly normal, well-adjusted family man in his early 40s with no major health issues and in good physical shape. He was in town for a business trip and had suddenly gone blind. Come to find out, while out with his colleagues, he had tried coke for the first time in his life. It was cut with a something that created a blockage in his optic nerve and now he's blind forever. This caused him to lose his job. He had a wife and kids and was the sole breadwinner. This sounded urban legend levels of bad to me, so I went to look it up. Turns out it's pretty common for something I'd never heard of it before, although it's not from nerve blockage but arterial blockage and can occur from just ordinary cocaine use without a specific known adulterant. My childhood friend Mandy found out at 15 she was pregnant and cried rape. The truth came out almost immediately because the boy she claimed was the father had recorded them fucking and she forgot about the tape. Wow. Lots of layers on that one. Teen pregnancy, possession of child pornography for recording it, fake rape accusation. Had a friend or ex-friend at the time. He decided, So what if she's not 18 and he was a teacher? Yeah, not a good outcome.